week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last stunts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 390, Mr. Somich.
Huzzah. Little guy. Just sneaking one in there. You know, it's an extra show. It's a bonus show. You don't need the full celebration.
It's a bonus show. Yeah, listen, we did a lot of celebrating yesterday. A little hungover this morning, proverbially. Saratoga opening day yesterday. Before we get into Saturday's show, real quick, Mike, your overall thoughts on Saratoga opening day?
Pretty fun. Fun to see the shoot. Interesting that the dirt track seemed a little slow to me. The times came back slower than you kind of have been seeing at Belmont. So we'll see how that dirt track plays as the meet goes. Two turf sprints, won both by horses coming from off the pace, albeit there was a lot of speed on those turf sprints. So I think the track played pretty fair. Got a little bit of rain, but not much. It's a beautiful day here today. Looking outside, I'm going to go with sunny and 80 probably. A couple clouds in the sky, but nothing to complain about. It's the first time we're ever going to do a show well, Saratoga was running at the same time, which is also interesting. So we can jump in and talk a little bit about the first race here, which is coming up in about a half an hour when we get a little closer to post. Before we do that, Magic, I've got a very important question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are we covering the late pick 5 or the late pick 4?
Late pick 5.
All right, give me 1 second to adjust my ticket.
We are doing the late pick 5 because we started kind of making this change because of the takeout is drastically different between the two. And, listen, a lot of people like late pick 5s. You can definitely make a lot more money hitting them, so that's always fun as well. And Davey said this in the chat. I'm always shouting the background Magic Mike Show with the intro song. You're not alone, Davey. If you saw what happens, what's happening off screen, while the intro video is happening, I'm usually sitting here dancing and mimicking along, and Mike's usually doing something too. We've done this 390 sometimes. We still do it. So we're with you, Davey. Don't worry about singing it. Your ticket good?
Yeah, it's good now. It's probably the song I've listened to the most in my entire life now, as sad as that sounds.
Still number 2 to Freebird for me, but that's okay. We've got Saturday's late pick 5 at Saratoga, including the Diana Stakes, which is going to be a hell of a handicapping nightmare. The Sanford Stakes, which is a handicapping nightmare for a different reason. And then 3 other races that might as well be stakes because it's Saratoga, Mike. Let's get into it, buddy. Right. Up.
Don't forget, if you're playing the late pick 5 over at Saratoga, to head over to BetPTC.com. Get $200 as a sign-up bonus after you bet $750 using the code DUDES, D-U-D-E-S. So when you sign up for BetPTC, use the promo code DUDES. You'll get $200 as a bonus. It's also the home of the rebates. You get instant rebates. When the race goes official, so does your rebate. Gets deposited right back into your account. And don't forget the King of the Hill contest every Saturday as well. Got the name right this time. You can win a free BC seat. All you got to do is click contest play every time you make a bet on Saturday and bet at least $200 and have a positive ROI. You got a shot at a $10,000 BC seat. So head over to betptc.com. Promo code DUDES. Sign up today.
That's awesome. And also, if you want to play Saratoga today, Friday, July 15th, when we're recording this and we're on air live, we're having the tournament challenge again. This is our twice a month we do at RacingNews.com in conjunction with HorseTourneys.com. If you're a premium subscriber, play against the Racing Dudes team for just $10. We've got cash prizes on the line, $150 in the site credit for Horse Tourneys to the winner. They cannot go to a Racing Dudes team member if we win. So you're guaranteed to get some good stuff, have some fun, and then we will be live at 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central today, covering the last 2 races at Saratoga and talking about the tournament. So that'll be fun and unique because, Mike, you're going to be calling from the track.
Yes, I will be. We'll see how this actually goes. Technology and the Magic Mike Show often are not friends, but we're going to try and I did test it out. True story. Magic saw me do it. So we're going to try and see if we can get live from the paddock. I will not have any poop shots like Slim did, but I will try and bring my own flair to it so we can see if we get some insight from the paddock at Saratoga.
You could argue that was Slim bringing his flair to it. Good morning to Pedlo. Good morning. Let's get into the late pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, July 16th. The first leg is race 7. 9 older males sprinting 7 furlongs on the main track. It's an N2X allowance. I said it before we got into this, Mike. This could easily be a stakes race because of who's in here. The 3-5 favorite, Reinvestment Risk. He's finished second in all 3 of his tries at 7 furlongs. Lost to Jackie's Warrior twice and Speaker's Corner the other time. So if you're going to finish second at 7 furlongs, those are good horses to finish second to.
Yeah, and there's not any of those horses in this race. And I'm not going to waste too much time here. I mean, look, you're using 2. I'm not going to waste my money. Give me Reinvestment Risk. Let's move along. Like I would. This made it really easy to put a pick 5 together. P.S. Like having Reinvestment Risk here at 3-5. I'm a little interested in 4 Zoomer, a little interested in 9 Baby Yoda, but like none of them are as good as Reinvestment Risk. And yes, this isn't the end goal, but 80% of Reinvestment Risk should beat this field, right? I mean, that's about what he's need.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that, I went into this. I had 2 different tickets, and I waited until this morning to figure out which I was going to use. One was singling him. The other's the way that I went. I think the Reinvestment Risk is easily he's deserving 3-5 morning line favorite. But I'm also like, I kind of want to take a small shot against him because he's going to be so heavily bet. I'm going to use the 7 River Dog. If you're going to swing big, Mike, swing for the fences. I'm going with the 20-1 morning line here for River Dog, and for me, it's because I think that this horse could go gate to wire. There isn't any horse that I think is as fast as he is. I mean, shit, he went 21.5, 44 and 2 in a stakes race at Monmouth last out. Going too short, going 6 furlongs, and there are a lot of 6 furlong speed horses in there. There aren't 6 furlong speed horses in here that I think will contend with him on the front end. Reinvestment Risk, like he does his best, I think, when he's stalking a little bit, sitting off the pace. Baby Yoda, he likes to be closer, but I don't think that he's going to push. I don't think Joel Rosar, who knows what the hell Joel Rosar is going to do at Saratoga this year. It's a losing man's game trying to figure that out. But I'm going with the 7 just because he has won at 7 furlongs. It was a New York bred stakes. It was muddy sealed track, but he did win at this distance. I'm just banking on maybe he just gets out there early and Reinvestment Risk can't reel him in, because Jose Ortiz being on this horse, man, I think he's going to have a great ride here.
Yeah, look, fair points. You probably will get the lead. Will he hold on? Who knows? He's never had anyone like Reinvestment Risk try and run him down. True. And at 20-1, I don't hate it. Like it's one of those spots where going too deep with Reinvestment Risk isn't that bad ticket structure wise. If you go 5 deep with Reinvestment Risk, we got to have a talk, right? And that's where it's like, look, you just got to throw him out at that point. And then play the pick 4 if he wins, because there's diminishing returns if you're wasting so many bullets. It doesn't allow you to structure better later if you're trying to beat him. So I don't mind going too deep here. We've talked about that on previous shows with a favorite and a second choice, especially if a bomb comes in like this. It makes a big difference from a long-term ticket perspective, and it doesn't cost you too much money structurally. But this is one of those spots where if you're going 4 or 5 deep, I think you got to leave him off. If you're going to go 1 or 2 deep, then you can, I think either single you're going too deep or you're not using him here.
I really wanted to try and figure out a way to use Nova Rags, the 2 horse at 12-1. He's also won at 7 furlongs. He's second off the layoff, second at age 4. Matsaya, as he's drawn inside. I think he's good. I think he's dangerous here. But to your point, if I'm using Reinvestment Risk, I didn't want to go more than 2 deep. I only wanted to use a bomb horse, so 20-1 on there. But Nova Rags, did you look at him at all?
Look, you can make a case for the 2. Nova Rags. You can make a case for the 4 Zoomer. You can make a case for the 6 Answer In. You can make a case for the 9 Baby Yoda if Reinvestment Risk wasn't in this race. I mean, that would completely change how I would have structured this late pick 5 ticket, because I would have spread in this race, right? I probably would have been 2-4-9, maybe 2-4-6-9 if I was going to play, if Reinvestment Risk scratched, essentially, right? And that would have made it a lot tougher, because I do not have a single after this race that I'm really all that interested in. I'm going to go short in the next race. We'll get to that in a second. And it's another reason why, if you're singling Reinvestment Risk, depending if you're using Bleecker Street or not, that all of a sudden creates a very small value from a ticket perspective, because you're 3-5 into 6-5, and both of them are going to get hammered. So if Reinvestment Risk wasn't here, I think you could spread, but it's just so hard to say, are you just going to get a clunker here, right? The last 4 races all win this by open lengths.
So chat real quick, Davey, good question. Did he Reinvestment Risk dual Central Quality before? Yeah, it was in the Bluegrass Stakes, and in the Central Quality, that's the closest he came to losing before the Derby. So good point there. He can be on the front end there. It's just, I think his best running style is to take back. Also remember, that's at 2 turns. It's a little different when you're forwardly placed at 2 turns versus what he would do at 1. And Davey brings up a good point. It's going to look like the Preakness with the Ortiz brothers on the front end. Mike, I don't hate a 5-7 exacta either here. You've got Irad on the 5. You've got Jose on the 7. 2 horses will be forwardly placed, and we know the Ortiz brothers like to play games together.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things playing cash tournaments has taught me is that these cold exactas are sometimes your best bet, because let's say you're essentially getting, probably you're going to get $10 to $12 exacta to the 7. you're getting 12-1 on a place bet, right? I mean, like that's kind of the way you look at it in that sense. And that's a heck of a lot better than what you'd pay out. These cold exact is overpay if you're not going favorite. And Riverdog will not be the second choice. So playing reinvestment risk on top and playing a cold exacta with the 7, I don't hate that at all if you think Riverdog is going to go out and get the lead. The question is, he got passed last time and finished 7th. Does he kind of just throw the towel in when he gets passed? And you need him to run second. And I don't think reinvestment risk gets him late. I think reinvestment risk gets him top of the lane. There's a whole stretch run for that horse to get demoralized.
Yeah, well, he's got he's got a lot of work ahead of him. But at 20-1, we're gonna take a shot again. Let's move on. This is the race that should be on everybody's radar. If you're not even a betting person, just a horse racing fan. Second leg of the late pick 5, race 8, the Grade 1 Diana Stakes. Just 6 fillies and mares in here, Mike. 4 of them from Chad Brown. Don't care about that. This is going to be absolutely awesome. The 3 Bleecker Street is your morning line favorite. Perfect in 7 starts. Does she stay perfect after start number 8?
I mean, maybe, but she's not. She's beating me at 6-5. I'll tell you that much. If I didn't like this horse last time at 3-1, there's no way in hell I'm playing back Bleecker Street at 6-5. I mean, you can't do it. And if you love Bleecker Street at 3-1, you better be singling here because you can't go 3 deep in this leg and use Bleecker Street. That, again, especially with reinvestment risk in the first leg, is going to kill your ticket value. So you have to choose, okay, am I going to single? I'm going to play a press ticket? Or am I going to chuck one of these two or both of them, right? And that's structurally how you have to attack this sequence. I'm going to single in the first leg and throw her out here because I think look, I liked Regier at 6-5, and now I'm getting those prices flipped around, and there's really no excuse for what happened to Regier. The horse just didn't show up. That happens. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'd rather take 3-1 on Regier than I would 6-5 on Bleecker Street.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think that so you went 2 deep, I went 3 deep, and I'm guessing we might have this in the exact order. I went 4/2 for my top 2 plays here. All great points. Forget that last race at Belmont. It just looked like she shuffled her feet, and you said it. Now we're flipping the prices on those 2, not using Bleecker Street. If she wins this and she's now 8 for 8, crown her as the champion of the Filly and Mare Turf division right now, because goddamn, that's impressive for who she's beaten. But Regier, a Group 1 winner in France. She will be a Group 1 winner in America. We've been very confident about that since she arrived. So we just got to catch her. I think this is the time to do it at 3-1. First time she's been a price since Chad Brown's had. First time she's been over 3-5 since Chad Brown has had her. So love her about that. Let's talk about the 2 Creative Flair coming in for Charlie Appleby. Listen, he didn't win the Belmont Oaks or the Belmont Derby. He brought the runner-up for both of those Grade 1 races last year, and I would argue that he had the best horse in the Belmont Derby. He just, Classic Causeway, went gate to wire on him. Creative Flair won the only other try at this distance that happened to be last out at Medan, her first start as a 4-year-old. Remember, too, she finished 3rd, a nose behind Regier in a Group 3 in France at this exact distance last summer. So if you like Regier at 3-1, Creative Flair's won just as many times as Regier has this year, and you're getting 8-1 on her on a trainer that only sends his best chances to win in America to America. I think we're going to get a great price too, Mike, because people are going to look at the Belmont Oaks or the Jockey Club Oaks and the Saratoga Oaks and go, well, she can't run in America. We don't want to play her here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Jamie Spencer stays to ride as well. I mean, this would be very odd, I would say, that the one just sticks around for one mount here and then has him out on Sunday too, I believe, if he wants to run on Sunday as well. But it's very odd to see Jamie Spencer here for Creative Flair if you think this horse isn't going to fire. I do. I think Creative Flair is going to have a big shot here. I like the fact that we're coming back to the U.S. after being here. This horse has already experienced this. It came over here last year as well. So it's not like this is the first time we're shipping internationally. We go back overseas. We improve first time out as a 4-year-old. Now our second off as a 4-year-old is going to be in this race. They're pointing for it. I think it's all systems go here for Creative Flair. Charlie Appleby didn't ship this horse to have this horse lose. Now, not the A team from Charlie Appleby. This is kind of the A-B+ team, but still a very, very, very good horse. And as you mentioned, the Regier effort puts her right there. And the 8-1 price is great. So for me, I'm just going to go with the 2 and the 4, and I'm going to hopefully move along through there. I think you could make a case for the 1. Obviously, the 3 makes sense. I think the 5 and 6 are a little bit bigger of outsiders. I'm kind of surprised the 6 is at 6-1. That seems really low to me. But I'm really hoping we can just get through the 2 and the 4 here. I'd love to see Creative Flair win at 8-1. That'd be great.
I'm with you. At the last second, I added a 3rd horse, and I added technical analysis here, and getting 3-1. So that makes it a lot easier to put her on. She's 2 for 2 at Saratoga. The better of the 2 races was the longer of the 2. So now that we're going 9 furlongs on the outer turf, I do like that. A good second to Shanta Sara in the Grade 1 QE2 Cup last year. She was Chad Brown's best chance at winning a Grade 1 race in the fall at Keeneland. You cannot underestimate that. Has a career best Beyer 96 that she's coming out of. It matches Bleecker Street's for winning the Grade 1 New York. I asked Aaron because I thought maybe technical analysis that 96 Beyer, I was like, that seems a little inflated. I said, what do the time forms say? Almost identical, Bleecker Street and technical analysis. So if you like technical or Bleecker Street for her New York numbers, whether it's time form or Beyer, technical analysis has the same amount. She's now third off the bench. We're catching her at a price just like Rozier. I understand if you don't want to use her. I think that she is definitely the lesser of the two Browns I'm using. But Jose Ortiz, I have this weird feeling is going to win the Saratoga riding title. I think Jose Ortiz is riding as well as I've ever seen him do. I think technical analysis gets the job done with Jose Ortiz.
That's the top 5 craziest things you've said on this podcast, and that's saying something. That Jose Ortiz
this week or ever, because I've said some really crazy shit.
Ever. There's zero chance Jose Ortiz wins the riding title. Right. He's screwed. He's not getting so Pratt's taking all of the 1A mount or the 1B mounts from Brown and Pletcher. So it would take a minor miracle for his. No, he's not winning. No chance. Zero chance. It's either Irad, Pratt, or Saez. I'm
calling this on the morning of day 2 of Saratoga. If we end this, I'm with you. It's probably a little bit longer shot because it was here. If he ends up winning the riding title, we are definitely coming back to this.
Yeah, that's fine. You trying to think of
okay. Don't have to worry about that.
I would give you somewhere between 50 and 100 to 1 for Jose Ortiz to win the riding title.
How about this? If he wins the riding title, buy me a bottle of Casamigos.
Done. And if he doesn't, you have to buy me a little shot thing of Casamigos.
Okay, I can afford that.
It's a nice little. It's about 50 to 1, right? So there you go. I think they're like $4, not $1. Yeah. But anyway, look, he's going to have the secondary or the tertiary mounts for Brown and Pletcher, and that's where it's going to really hurt him. Is that he's no longer getting the second best mount; he's getting the third and fourth best mounts for some of these trainers. Anyway, technical analysis. The problem is Delica. That's the issue I have with technical analysis. Oh boy, yeah. Because the technical analysis in every race that you mentioned was lone speed. And a lot of times you run into lone speed, and in Italian's not going to push. In Italian's happy to sit second. We've seen him do that multiple times. Rosario's on in Italian. So the likelihood of in Italian pushing is very low. Delica is a lead or nothing horse. Technical analysis is a lead or nothing horse. That, to me, is where you have the problem with technical analysis. I think you're going to get pace pressure from the 5. That makes it a lot harder for the 1 to be able to win. I think it means that the 6 horse is pretty much guaranteed third, right? Like, just lock that 6 into third. Yeah, and either the 2 or the 4 probably doesn't fire. The 3 runs up for second. I can see how this is already working out, but to me, technical analysis is behind the 8 ball because there's other speed in here.
I mean, I'm with you. I think you make a great point about in Italian. I think she has a great key underneath. She's never finished off the board in 6 starts, and she was 6 lengths clear of 4th last out in just a game. Yeah, Delica's the wild card. What does Ricardo do? What is Ricardo doing? You know what? I wish Rosario and Ricardo switched horses because I know for a fact what Rosario is going to do on Delica, and it's not go to the lead. And, Ricardo is going to follow the instructions, which is just sit in second the whole time. So, yeah, anyways, we spent 6 horses. We spent way too much time on this, Mike. It was fun, but we got some more to do. Third leg, late pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, July 16th. I had to make sure I got the day right. Race 9. We're staying on the grass, going 9 furlongs, but we're going to move to the inner turf course now. A dozen 3-year-old males at the N1X level. The 2-1 morning line favorites, not even on the screen. Sorry about that. Number 9, Fort Ticonderoga with my boy, Jose Ortiz, riding for Shug McGahee. But I'm wondering, can you take that short of a price in this field exiting a maiden special weight win?
It's pretty tough. Before we do that, we're 12 minutes to post for Saratoga. And Magic actually tipped me off to a horse, the 5 horse. We want to talk a little bit about the 5 horse. It's a New York bred by Justify. The Magic was getting people were sending Magic texts about this horse, apparently.
Yeah, I was hearing about this horse before she even debuted here. Let me see if I can pull it up on the Equibase for people who are watching live. If you're listening to this on replay and she lost, you can listen to me sound like a jackass, but that's nothing new. The 5, I'm just kidding, for John Kimmel, 8-5. Okay, now she's getting heat. She was not getting heat for a while.
That's why I'm mentioning it. She's getting bet now. She was a 3-1 lukewarm favorite, has gone down to 8-5 since we started this show.
So she's a daughter of Justify. If you've listened to us on the Magic Mike Show, Mike always talks about how strong Justify is as a sire. He's got 2 black type stakes winners already at 2 years old, including the one that won yesterday at Saratoga, right? Yeah, Just Cindy. Thank you. So I'm Just Kidding is also out of Bar of Gold, who is the winner of the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint in 2017. Huge bomb price. I have heard about this filly because she is supposedly very far along developmentally. If you see her on the track, she'll probably look bigger than the other fillies that she's facing. She's also a New York bred. She's bred like she's a Kentucky champion, and she's a New York bred facing New York breds. The only one that I would be worried about is the 6 Camp Aquila, because Tom Amos is very strong with first-time starters, especially 2-year-olds. He's got Gaffleone, and that's usually a good angle for him. But I just heard so much about the 5, and I'm happy now that she's getting steam, because when she was 3-1 the whole time, I was like, shit.
Uh-oh. Yeah. I ended up with the 3-5-6 here. Nothing too special. I had the 6 on top, but it was interesting that now we're starting to see that money come in for the 5, because it's a horse we talked about a couple days ago. Wanted to make sure we mentioned it on air. Where there's still 10 minutes here to post. So if you're structuring your pick 5 tickets right now, make sure you do include that 5 as a favorite. I'm going to play the 6 and the 5, and I'll sprinkle some 3 in there as well. But I think that it's important to at least note that the steam here is pretty accurate based on the information the Magic had.
I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks. We're coming back to that. We will, if you're watching live, we will be talking about that race a little bit more, probably after this one, just because it'll probably be post time. But real quick, let's talk about this one. Fort Ticonderoga, short price. Do you take him?
No, I kind of like the 3 horse here, Forever Super for the Mark Casse barn. This is a second off the layoff, 3-year-old by American Pharoah. That last race was just really good. And I realized it was on the synthetic, but there's at least some turf to synthetic transfer that you can talk about there. If you watch that race back, the horse looked dominant, and you've got AstroTurf and Backchat in there, who are two of the better horses on the synthetic state bred circuit there. Yes, we're going to need to take a step forward here, but I don't see a ton of other horses that are going to have that same style that we're going to see here from Forever Super. You got a couple horses like Summer Anthem who are going to want to be a little more forwardly placed. You got Constitutional Lawyer, the 7 as well. But if you have the 2 of them go, and then all of a sudden right behind them is the 3-horse Forever Super here, I think it sits a great trip. 8-1's the price I'm looking for. I think you're going to get a little bit overlooked because you're coming out of a state-bred Florida race. But if you go to the 2 races as a 2-year-old, they fit with what you would need to take step forward here, and those were open company. So, and we're going to see Gogo Bra or later today as well, the horse that beat the horse 3 back. So I like that I'm getting 8-1. I like that Velasquez takes them out. I like that we've got a couple bullet works on the form there. 3 of the last 5 actually have been bullet works, so the horse is liking life right now. I think this is a live horse at 8-1.
It was the last one off for me. It wasn't even the knock about the synthetic that was, it was supposed to be on the turf and it got rained off, but you still see 10 of them stayed on because of synthetic. So beat turf horses and beat open company turf horses in April. That came the week after the championship meet ended. So I'm starting to wonder how many horses really were sticking around by that point. But it was just 1 week later. He had the 3rd place finisher, Native Thunder, break his maiden in the slop next out. So, some class coming out of that. I think this is definitely a spot where you try and, find some prices you like. So the 3, like I said, was the last one off for me. So I don't hate that. I'm surprised the 6 credit event wasn't your top pick. This is a horse that debuted on the synthetic going 2 turns for Chad Brown. We talked about that back in January when this was happening, that Chad Brown hates the Gulfstream Park turf. Watch to see what he does with these horses on synthetic and if he sends them to Keeneland next. He literally did that with credit event. Was the 7-5 favorite in that race. 8-5. I can't do math. 8-5 favorite in that allowance race at Keeneland, and just an absolute brutal trip. So much so you made that whole race a stable him up feature. So I love this horse. Irad's riding after Pratt couldn't get the job done last time out.
Yeah, I'm angry at this horse. Cost me $70,000 in that last race. So that's the main reason why credit. No, it's not the main reason, but I have a hanging problem with credit event. Credit event made the lead, should have won that race. If you go back, you watch, Pratt sent the horse a little bit too early, but credit event didn't open up and then got absolutely nailed at the wire by a Saya's horse. I think it was like 15-1, something like that. I would have had to pick 6. I think it was 15 times on a carryover day. So that was fun. So still angry at credit event for that. I remember Flavian and credit event. My biggest issue was how the horse didn't want the win, and that to me was like, okay, I like there's a problem there. And yeah, I know we're adding some equipment here. We're taking
the blinkers were added that race, and we're taking them back off. So I'm just wondering if maybe that solves it.
Maybe. I mean, but you would think that the blinkers would actually help a horse focus, and so once they get in front, they would continue to open up, not just kind of look around, right? So I'm going to use credit event. 4-1 is the right price here. I don't know if we're getting 4-1. That's part of my issue with credit event. This horse got hammered both the last 2 times. I would expect this horse takes a ton of money again. That there is a ton of trip trouble if you go back and watch that Keeneland race. And that race has come back very well. If you go back and you look at who has now come out of that race, limited liability run over its head twice in a row, ran 2 very good races. That was your winner. Play Action Pass, 1 back. The 4th place finisher, 1 back. So that race has produced multiple winners and has come back very well. So I'm not going to knock the race. I'm worried the credit event doesn't want to open up down the lane, which can cause trouble. I like the 9 here too. I like Fort Ticonderoga. I like this horse first time out. Now we're second off the layoff. The horse makes a ton of sense in this field. I mean, it's just properly spotted. Yes, we're stepping up. Don't love the 2-1 price, but if I'm going Two deep, single by two deep, I'm allowed to use a horse like this here. Hopefully this horse can kind of get the job done. And then I'm going to go for a Bomb Diggity horse here too. Give me some of that entry. I'm a little interested specifically in the 1A Dripping Gold. We're hung out in the 11 post, so that's a little bit of a concern. This horse came out of that last race where you saw Credit Event, but that was first off a layoff for Shug, and Shug has Jalen Samuel take the mount there. Jalen Samuel, not an amazing jockey. He's good, not an amazing jockey. Second off the layoff, who do we call? Your boy. Flavian Patrick up the mount. I think that's a big time step forward. I think it tells you a lot about kind of the idea that maybe we didn't see the best from Dripping Gold in that first effort. And now we are expecting to see the best from Dripping Gold in the second effort. We're getting 12-1. We're getting Pratt. Shug second off the layoff. Sign me up for the 1A at a price.
You know, if I get a scratch out of here, the coupled entry of 1 and 1A is going to go in for me. And because of this horse, I don't hate the one set into the Y's for Jason Barkley. I definitely prefer the 1A over them. I wish they had flipped where they were drawn. I wish the Dripping Gold was post 5 and set into the Y's was buried in post 11. It would make it easier for me to use. So all great points. Not going to knock you for it. I didn't use either of the Shug horses in here. To me, you brought it up, a great point. You can use Fort Ticonderoga because of how you structured your ticket. I didn't think that I could do it the way that I have mine. So I'm going to go 3 deep. A Credit Event was my top pick. I'm going to go with the 4 Analogy for Todd Pletcher and Kendrick Carmouche at 10-1. Horse that won gate to wire going a mile and an eighth, but I don't think that's what this horse's best style is. The fractions were almost 50 for that opening half mile. Beat a horse named Baltus that day by a neck, had to show a lot of fight in the end to hold off Baltus. By the way, Baltus, a 4-year-old, Analogy is 3. Baltus won his next 2 starts out, got huge buyers in both of them. Baltus has beaten several horses that we've talked about at this meet already. So it's a name that he's like the new Ducali, except he wins.
Except in a positive way.
Yeah, he's the positive Ducali. I mean, it's a son of Medaglia D'Oro, who was first level allowance last time out after beating winners or after breaking his maiden, almost catches Credit Event. He's a nose behind. So if I love Credit Event at 4-1, I feel like I've got to like Analogy, who was dead last and just missed by a head and a nose. So especially at 10-1, I really think that I'm getting some great value here because I also like Credit Event.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out, because that last race is like I said, I felt Pratt went early. And the horse that won that race came from almost dead last. Castle Leach or Luch or Luch or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever.
Came from way back there as well. So you had 2 horses that were way back that charged up for the win and for third. And you had Credit Event, who essentially went 3 wide midway through the second turn, took the lead top of the lane, and then was not able to kind of hold off all the additional challengers there. I'm wondering if the race set up for horses to come from off the pace, and that's a little flattered, that effort from Analogy. And but again, 10-1, and you were a nose behind a 4-1 shot. I wouldn't try and kill that pick either.
Last one for me, I'll go quick. The number 5 Summer Anthem, another price at 10-1. Tyler Gaffalione riding for Mike Maker, 22% winners, 394 ROI at last year's Saratoga meet. That's pretty damn good. I got a feeling he might try and take this horse gate to wire. There's not a ton of speed that's signed on. You got a couple horses that may, like the 7, if he takes to the turf, could go with him. Maybe Fort Ticonderoga sits a little closer, but I really wouldn't be surprised if I saw this horse have a lone lead early. And if you give me a maker horse on the turf going 2 turns with a lone lead, it usually works out, unless you're trying to do it on an absolute shit turf course like Churchill Downs had for the Audubon Stakes. A much easier class that what he's facing here versus then. No Smoke and Tea, no Kaido Dan, both talented horses. The fact that he broke his maiden at Keeneland with really good times, sitting close to the pace, although we did have a runaway leader halfway through. You see he was 9 lengths behind in second, but still had enough left to hold off the horses that were behind him. I think he's got potential. I really hope that Gaffalione gets that lone lead early into that first turn. If I see that, I'm like, lull him to sleep. Dynaformer, my boy Nick Feldman, I know likes this horse. Dynaformer's in the breeding as well. So the 5 at 10-1 to possibly take him gate to wire, Mike.
I don't hate it. It's all going to be about whether or not Constitutional Lawyer presses. And this is the first time we're going to see Constitutional Lawyer on the turf after running in back-to-back grade 3s, tries a muddy track at Belmont. Now we're getting to the turf and was close to a 45-2 pace there. But I mean, if that's really going to be the defining factor, because if Summer Anthem's able to get loose inside and get that inside trip where, okay, now we're going to fan out, Constitutional Lawyer is going to sit a length behind and then get a kind of easy galloping out trip, all of a sudden Southern Anthem gets really dangerous.
So I wonder what does happen, because yesterday in race 4, the long turf race, there was a horse that was going first time dirt to turf, and Afjan, who looked like he would be lone speed or something, and never ended up pressing the pace. So we'll see what happens. Different scenario, different jockey and trainer. But I did think that was interesting when Afjan just sat off instead of gunning yesterday.
Yeah, Ricardo Santana Jr. happened. There was no excuse for why that horse didn't go right to the lead. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. It was pretty frustrating as someone who bet Afjan because it was the first time we're going to get the proper setup. Not that it probably would have mattered, to be fair. It's like Afjan definitely was not good enough to stick with that field late, even going slow up front. But being too wide, 3 turns is not ideal at Saratoga. You really cannot lose ground on all 3 turns and have a good shot at winning. And that was also the ride that Rosario gave that 3 horse. Just brutal, man. Oh, watching back that race, that was terrible. We got about 1 minute to post here to Saratoga's first. Magic's 5 horse still taking, I don't know if I should call it your 5 horse. The Magic got tips about on the 5. Still taking a good amount of money. 3-2 just clicked down to 7-5. The 6 horse has actually got dropped from 4-1 to 5-2. So taking some late money on the Amos horse as well. The other one that you mentioned, I think this is 5-6 or 6-5 cold based on the way the money's going and based on the trainers. The 3 horse is the horse I would key in third. So I just played a little 5-6, 5-6-3 try just for shits and giggles as we get this thing going here. About a minute to post here, and I'm going to probably try and play a pressed pick 5 through the 6 just to try and beat the favorite here and get a little more value with Amos horse.
Yeah, listen, we've talked about it before, and we will all meet long, I'm sure, as long as he keeps running. Tom Amos is really, really good with 2-year-olds, and I'm trying to remember if he has one. The next race for us in the sequence will be the Sanford Stakes, so we'll get to that in just a minute. I'm looking through. Did Amos have? He does. Yeah, I knew Amos had it. That's right.
Yeah,
Amos not only has a horse in there, he has my favorite horse in that race.
Oh boy, that was my last cut in the ticket. Maybe I'll add him on because we're doing a pick 5. $60 isn't bad. Maybe I'll add the 5 there because I was $48. I can make it fit 60.
All right, 6-5 now, and I'm just kidding. Camp Aquila. Oh, the 6 horse back up to 3-1.
If the 5 keeps taking money down to 6-5 or even money, it's going to be hard for the 6 to be sub 3-1.
And then it almost makes the 6 bettable and the 5. I don't know. It's so hard with a horse, and we saw this with the Pletcher in race 2 yesterday, Chocolate Gelato. It's like, man, how do you take a horse at such a low price when they're debuting at 2 at Saratoga?
It's not easy. It's also, I mean, it's interesting because the exacta price is 5-3 is $10, 5-6 is $9. So the 3 is getting as much exacta love as the 6 is. 6-5 exacta right now is 12. Huh.
5-2 now on the 6. This is real. I'm going to have to cut this out of the podcast. I got to remember to go back and cut this out because this is bad. Marla K, by the way, good to see you, Marla. Marla changed her profile picture. Now we see that Marla is a Bengals fan.
No, man, she's not going to like me once football season starts.
Hey, I loved the Bengals last year. You remember that?
We played them over last year. I have a feeling they're an under this year, though.
That was all thanks to you, by the way, too. Yeah, it was all. I made a lot of money on that listening to Mike Somich. That's something that you can do as well. Keep listening to the Magic Mike Show. All right, get him in the gate here. Let's get going. The 5 is in. I always remember Bar of Gold winning the Filly Mare Sprint because that was, who was the Unique Bella? Was that Red Hot Hollendorfer sprinter, and she blew the start. And
Bargo was what, 78-1? Is that right?
Yeah, it was the biggest. It's still the biggest price I've ever seen pay out for a Breeders' Cup race I've been to. All right, we're off.
Oh, you bet.
That's a 3? Man, that's 3 is.
The 6 actually broke in the back of the pack. The 4 is rushing up. The 5 is going to have to go 3 wide to get it done here. It's always interesting with these filly races, man. It's these 2-year-old fillies. You never really know. You really want the lead, and obviously it's what the 3's going after. The 4 looks like the 4. It looks like the 4 is going smoother there on the inside or outside.
Yeah. I got a choppy feed. There we go. Boy, Tyler Gaffleone has not stopped working his arm since he broke from the gate on that 6 horse.
No, the 5 is starting to respond now, but that 4 looks kind of tough here.
Let's see, Lady Mine. Let's see. Oh, it's a James Chapman horse. Oh boy. If James Chapman's wins at Saratoga, that's usually a sign to just stop playing for the day.
The 5's starting to make up a little ground.
There she goes. Come on, girl.
Yeah, she's got it.
All right.
Now we're going by.
Not necessarily the way you want to see an even money shot win at Saratoga.
Are we going to get by?
Good Lord. Don't let James Chapman win at Saratoga. Wow.
That 4 never, 5 never got by. Jeez. What an auspicious start.
So every horse in that race, the opening at Saratoga on Friday, July 15th, chuck them next time out. Do not play a single one of those fillies back. Wow, that was bad. All right, Mike, you ready to talk about the Stanford?
Yeah, let's talk about Stanford.
That was a rough one. All right, Mike. The next leg, the penultimate leg, as they say, of the Late Pick 5 Saturday, July 16th at Saratoga, race 10 to grade 3, Sanford Stakes. And this year, Mike, we've got a dozen 2-year-old boys. Doesn't mean 12. 2-year-old boys going 6 furlongs on the dirt here. Expected heavy favoritism on another Pletcher, the 4, Forte. High rat aboard, 5-2 morning line. Super impressive debut winner. Field high 81 buyer. All these things to love. How are you playing him?
It's tough because do you really trust these horses? You see from some of these efforts we just saw here, the 2-year-old fillies, you don't really know all the time what you're going to get from some of these 2-year-olds. Forte was really impressive. You go back and you watch that replay. We talk about how professionalism is really important in these 2-year-olds. Man, Forte was wildly professional in that race, was able to sit off the pace, make a run, open up on the field. And Irad chooses this horse. Now, I'm going to say chooses with parentheses because the other horse he was on, Andiamo a Firenze, the 9 horse, is a Kelly Breen horse. And this is a Pletcher horse, right? So he doesn't really have a choice in my mind. He's going to always end up on the Pletcher horse here if they are at all similar. So I'm not going to sit here and say Forte is significantly better because that's where Irad decided to be. I do think that these are the two that are the most logical horses. If you go and watch the replay of Andiamo a Firenze, that horse absolutely spurted out of the gate. Like literally, Irad almost fell off. That horse got such a screaming break. I was able to go right to the front and just shrug everybody off. I like the professionalism more on the Forte side just because I want a horse that's been able to come from behind, that has faced some adversity when you're coming up into these stakes races. We saw it yesterday when we saw Summer Promise facing Just Cindy, where Just Cindy, who had faced adversity, had past horses, was able to essentially shrug off Summer Promise right after Just Cindy was able to range up on the outside. So for me, I'm going with Forte here. I think Andiamo a Firenze makes a ton of sense. I'm going to spread. I'm going to go 5 deep here because I think there's other places that you can find some prices. Where did you end up on top here, Magic?
Well, I'm curious if you're going to use both of those two, the two shortest ones, the 4 and the 9, and spread. I want to know if I'm allowed to do that in this spot based off my ticket structure because I would like to use Forte, but I left him off because I think he's just going to be so overbet that I like enough horses in here. You made a great point, 2-year-olds, second time out. Most of these horses have only tried one race, so you can't rely on them to do the same thing again. A lot of times that's why they take big steps forward, but they can also regress if they have a big buyer. And so that kind of worries me with Forte. Top pick, number 5, Curly Jack, 6-1. This is a son of Good Magic, who so far, at least when I was handicapping, 17 starters in his first crop, 5 winners, 4 runner-ups. He's doing great. He just doesn't have the stakes winners like Justify yet. Tyler Gaffalione riding for Tom Amos did not work out so well in race 1 Friday, Saratoga, but I think it was going to work out well here. Last year at Saratoga together, they were 4 for 14. That's 29%, when overall they're 19%. So together at Saratoga, they're a little bit better. That debut race for him, you talk about professionalism, broke from the rail, didn't have the best break, rushes up inside rivals. And when the jockey said, wait, the horse listened and he waited. And when the jockey said, go, he drew away professionally. That tells me that as fast as he is out of the gate, I think he's a little tactical, and that's going to be very important because there's a ton of speed, a lot of cheap 2-year-old speed in here that's going to quit pretty easily. I think if this horse actually takes back a little bit, watches what happens, I think Gaffalione can get him a perfect trip around the slowing horses. So I'm with you. I'm spreading. I'm going at least 4 deep here, but I love this horse at 6-1.
Yeah, look, this is almost the exact same comments you could make about Summer Romance, who ran yesterday, who didn't break well from the rail, ranged up, then opened up when asked late. Talent in the field often makes a difference in those spots. But the 9 also yesterday, Summer Promise, showed professionalism, did not make the lead, rated outside, just wasn't good enough to hold off Just Cindy. So I don't mind the use of Curly Jack here. I'm going to use Curly Jack because I think that Curly Jack and Andiamo a Firenze are the 2 speeds. To me, they could hurt each other and kind of blaze out there and cause some trouble. And because of that, I'm going to include the 2-horse Major Dude as my next horse in here for Todd.
So I went 4 deep, you went 5 deep, and the one I was going to add is Forte. We have full agreement in here. I just realized that. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, goody. So I look, Major Dude to me makes a ton of sense here. The 2-horse, we talked about professionalism. This is exactly what Major Dude saw. Don't pay attention to the buyer. Because that buyer is kind of BS because this horse didn't get to run until later in the race. One of the few spots where you see a horse run a 12-second final furlong here in almost all of these races, a lot of the times, like Forte did it in 12, but a lot of these horses are doing it in 13 or 14. Major Dude did it in 12 because Major Dude got to actually run the last furlong, whereas he had a ton of traffic trouble before that and split horses and then won. I think there's a ton more left in the tank for Major Dude, who is also a son of Bolt d'Oro. We've talked about how good Bolt d'Oro has been so far here, so want to make sure to give him some love there in the 2-horse. And then you want to talk about the 12 since we're in full agreement.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Valens and Day for Joel Rosario. I kind of think he's going to take back here and make a big run. I'm worried he might be left with a little bit too much to do, but like we saw him do that in the second race at Belmont in the Tremont Stakes. Maybe he took him back too far. He did have to steady. It says that in the trip notes. I don't know how much that affected him because he was still in last when it happened, but a little bit cleaner trip. You do have to like that Rudy Rod said, Joel, come on back. We'll let you ride it again. Saez was aboard for the debut, and that's a great sign. We should get every bit of 6-1 as well because you look at the horse, it was almost 7-1 on debut and then was 7-2 in the Tremont. So I think, with that loss, that 3 1/4 length loss last out, I think it's going to be a little quiet on the betting tote.
I agree. I like the fact that Rosario's back. I think Rosario knows this horse a little bit better. I like the outside draw too. I think that's a big part of this for me. You're not going to have that same issue where like he doesn't need to take back really. He just needs to veer in a little bit, and it's kind of slightly. Everyone else is going to go, so it just allows you to kind of cross over a little bit on the field, find mid pack, find where you want to be, and then send the horse for one big run. The extra half furlong should be valuable for him as well, coming from the back. So I think there's enough speed in here to chase. Rosario, fingers crossed, can put his first good ride together at Saratoga here and get the job done. But I think Valens and Day makes a ton of sense at 6-1.
Also, the number 9 Andiamo a Firenze 7-2. Another one that we heard about a lot before he debuted is a 3/4 sibling to Firenze Fire, who won this race in 2017 as a 2-year-old. He beat New York Breds in the slop. It makes you wonder if that buyer is a little inflated because of that, but you hear about this horse about physically just being farther along at this point in his career than some other 2-year-olds are. Jose Ortiz is going to be riding, and you've got another case where the 2 Ortiz brothers have the 2 best horses, and you got to figure out what kind of games they're going to play with each other.
Well, at least they're doing different things here. I mean, Andiamo a Firenze should go, right? And so should Curly Jack. So at least you don't have them on the 2 speed horses because that's when it can be frustrating. But I'm worried about that slop effort too. We talk about Firenze Fire loving the slop and that big buyer first out coming in the slop. You got to have a little bit of worry there that you got 3/4 Firenze Fire here who just fired in the slop and now you're going to face a fast track. Getting that same effort back is not a guarantee.
Yeah. Any horse that we didn't use that you were worried about in this position, in this race?
I thought the 1 was a little interesting. Bapio. It's the other Bolt d'Oro. This horse looked really good at Gulfstream. Not sure what he beat, but then he comes back and fires a 59 bullet workout at Belmont. So that to me is a positive there. Cassie shipping up here. We saw him run 3 in the Phillies version of this race on Thursday opening day, and he's only got 1 here today. Tells you kind of a little bit more about maybe which race he feels better about. So the Bapio I think is interesting at 15-1 if you want to get a little crazy.
Half brother to Papa Cap, who was very strong early, like this time of year as a 2-year-old runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and we ultimately proved to be great at 1 turn. A son of Gunrunner, who was a red-hot sire, just like Bolt d'Oro. 15-1, I would have used him, Mike, if he wasn't drawn on the rail. I think being buried on the rail with this field, I think it's going to end up costing him a little bit because he's not an immediate out of the gate, and when that happens, I'm worried he's going to get pinched back and pushed too far behind. But a lot to like about him. Definitely watch him moving forward. I wonder too, Mike, if Cassie originally wanted to put him in the Tremont Stakes that the Valens and Day was in, because he brought him up to Belmont. That work was before the Tremont, and then he didn't actually. He brought him to Belmont after he was been working in Florida for a bit. Just didn't send him. So I'm curious, but listen, Bapio, if you like him at 15-1, put him on your ticket for sure.
Yeah, it makes sense at 15-1. And that's the thing. And I'm $60. I'd be 72 if you want to do that. If you want to include this horse instead of including the 5 on my ticket at $60, because you have what I believe is a pretty easy free square and reinvestment risk, you can really structure around it and try and figure out if you want a price on here and go after one.
Boy, let's move on, Mike. The final leg of this late pick 5 Saturday at Saratoga race. What is this? This is going to be race 11 on the card. And, oh, yeah, that's right. It's not a New York bred, and it's not a maiden claiming event. So, actually, we're not covering this on the Magic Mike show. So, thank you so much for watching us. And I'm just kidding, Mike. Out of protest. Just kidding. No, 12 fillies and mares, 3-up, routing them on the 16th on the outer turf. Non-winners, 2 lifetime in for $35,000 tags. The number 4, Diva Ready, your 2-1 favorite on the morning line. Flavian Pratt, Jonathan Thomas. Not going to sugarcoat it, Mike. This is my top pick in here. Dropping in for a tag for the first time, but this is a very tough spot for a 35K N2L.
Yeah, same here. This to me is more of a lone speed play than anything else. I like the fact that we're dropping in for a tag, but I also think Diva Ready is going to make the lead. And it can be very tough if you have what you believe is the best horse who makes the lead going 2 turns on the turf at Saratoga. So Diva Ready, the top pick. Not going to go too much more into it there. I did end up going 3 deep here. I think Princess Blakely makes a ton of sense. Chad Brown, Irad Ortiz. So obviously, his horse is going to take some money here, sitting on the board at 4-1. Hopefully get somewhere around there. Chad is 0 for 3 in the form right now, so hopefully that means people back off him a little bit. We talked about this before. He was running his best horses on synthetic at Gulfstream. That's where this horse is coming out of. I think he thought this horse had some talent. Turns out this horse didn't have that much talent. That's why we debuted in Maiden Claimers there. Was able to get the job done. Stepped up to allowance level. Now we're getting back with our buddies here in the claiming level. I think the 9 makes a ton of sense at 4-1.
Last one off for me. I couldn't go very deep in this race just because of how deep I'm going in other spots, and I didn't use her. All great points. Chad Brown's 32% at the claiming level. Stayed at Florida because she's Florida bred, so she didn't go to Belmont after the championship meet ended. Not worried about that. The winner of that second start went gate to wire. 4 older horses were in there. I'm going to play against partly because of the price and partly because she's going to be drawn outside, but very worried about what she does when she tries turf for the first time. It's a question mark, but it's Chad Brown doing it with the horse that you said he put on the synthetic twice at Gulfstream. So won't knock you there. The 4 Diva Ready, like I said, top pick. You outlined all great points. I also really like that you wouldn't know this if you didn't do some deep diving, but the breeder, he races under Augustine Stable. So this is a homebred, a breeding operation who's putting a 3-year-old filly that's a daughter of More Than Ready in for a tag. Normally, I'd be like, why is he doing that? This is a great horse to breed to because it's Saratoga and they want to win, Mike. So that's why we both love this horse. Next up for me, just to her inside the 3, Noble Enterprise for Peter Pugh and Luis Saez. Peter Pugh only has 5 starters so far this year, 2 of them with this horse. And you see that she's come close to winning both times. Almost gets second in the N1X allowance at Keeneland, going 1.5 miles, cuts back to go 1.16 miles at about this level at Belmont, almost gets the job done with Luis Saez aboard, misses by a half length to Kemba, who's returning here. Saez stays aboard, and now instead of being drawn in post 8, Mike, we're all the way inside of post 3. Much easier way to save ground with Luis Saez. So I went 4-3 to start here. I used the top pick, but I know another pick, but I know you didn't use the 3.
Yeah, that was actually my last horse off the ticket.
Okay.
Makes a ton of sense. Going to step forward, but I like size in these type of spots. I like we start talking about Kemba and other horses in here that make me have to spread more than I wanted to if I started to include the 3. So I just left Noble Enterprise off. If someone scratches, this is probably the next horse on for me in the sequence because I do think Noble Enterprise has a decent shot. I think you're going to get that 8-1 price. Last horse on my ticket was all the way, well, not all the way outside, but the 10 horse Freedom Machine. This is one of those where Jose Ortiz and Luis Saez and John Lozcano all are riding for Richard Shosberg. And 9% trainer on the year, just 4 out of 47. So not a well-known trainer, but this is one of those where, again, we're just getting back to our friends here. And if you look at those last races, it's state bred allowance, state bred allowance, state bred allowance. You have one claimer at 30,000 where the horse is competitive. Then we go back to state bred allowance, state bred allowance, state bred allowance, and then a maiden claimer for 40,000 where the horse won. This is the level this horse wants to be at. 10-1 is the right price. If we can improve off those numbers, I think you got a legit shot at getting a 10-1 shot home. I love the fact that Saez rode this horse. I love the fact that Lozcano rode this horse, and now Ortiz is riding this horse. There is some talent here. You're getting good riders to ride for a smaller barn. The question is, when are we going to be able to break through? I'm hoping it's today at 10-1.
Hey, yeah, you brought great points. I didn't use her, but I kind of wanted to make try and use her, and there's plenty of great ways to make a case. When she's in for a tag with her friends, like you said, that's where she's a great fit. I'm looking at this. She's a 5-year-old daughter of English Channel. I'm like, I kind of want to claim her for $35K, send her to Maker, and get her ready for Kentucky Downs, because I think she's going to win. She's going to win a Kentucky Downs stakes race with Maker if they're not careful, or at least hell, you could put her in a starter allowance and she'd clean up down there. Great use at 10-1. Not going to knock you for it. Just didn't make my ticket because, you can't use every single horse in all these. We're not millionaires yet. Last horse for me, the 8, Raining Candy, 15-1. I'm using 2 Kendrick Carmouche horses in this sequence. That's not something I do very often. But with this horse, second off the layoff, second time at age 4, breeding says should love going this distance on the turf. Broke the maiden over this track while protected last year as a 3-year-old with IRAD riding. I think that is a huge factor that this horse was protected against state breds and got the job done at Saratoga. Has been a surprise pretty much her entire life. That's why I'm going to get 15-1 on her. at this level pretty much last time out. Faced Kemba, Noble Enterprise, had absolutely nothing left, but she was coming from a 7-month break. I also blame that effort, Mike, on the draw. She was drawn in post 10 and had that super quick run up to that first turn. Now we're going to be down in post 8. It's a little easier to handle. We've got a little bit more room to run because we're on the outer turf at Saratoga instead of the inner turf. So we have more chance for Kendrick Carmouche to get over and not be stuck 10 wide into that first turn. So with that in mind, if she can get back to her preferred running style like she did at Saratoga September 1st, 2021, when she broke her maiden, I think she's sitting on a big effort here, Mike.
Yeah, I don't hate it at 15-1. Right? I mean, you made the point that the reason I looked at her for a long time was specifically that post position draw. Like, a mile and 16th at Belmont is like halfway through the turn already. Breaking from the outside there is just suicide. I mean, it's impossible to be able to. It's not impossible, but it's very, very difficult to win from those outside posts. And then to try and be on the lead and do it means that you probably had to run pretty far. You're crossed over, but you're crossed over and you're doing it while not making the lead. So then you're just sitting the outside of a horse. I mean, it's just, that is not the trip that you want if you're running at Belmont. So you can draw a line through that one, and especially first off the layoff. Now we're getting second off, second out as a 4-year-old, second time against claimers. There's a lot of positive angles for a 15-1 shot.
All right, Mike, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate you. It's Saratoga's second day, and then we did the preview for Saratoga's opening Saturday, so it's an exciting time. If you're a fan of Saratoga, guess what? Go to racingnews.com and youtube.com/racingdudes. We've got a couple of videos about Saratoga. By a couple, I mean that's everywhere, so go check that out. Mike and I will give out our tickets one last time before we get out of here. I will make a note that my ticket is $108. If you want a single reinvestment risk in the opener like Mike does, it brings it down to $54. So it's going to make it a lot more closer to what his ticket is. I'll start off, Mike. I'm going to go 5-7 with 1-2-4 with 4-5-6 with 2-5 9-12 with 3-4-8. Again, it's $108 if you just single reinvestment risk, $54 per pick 5. Mike.
I'm going to go ahead and single reinvestment risk. I'm going to go 5 with 2-4 with 1A 3-6-9 with 2-4 5-9-12 with 4-9-10. That'll cost you $60 for 50 cents.
Davey, thank you. He says thanks in chat. Thank you for joining us. And again, we will be back in 4 hours because we have the Racing Dudes tournament show, which will be covering races 9 and 10 in Saratoga. Even if you're not a tournament player, you're not in this specific tournament, join us, please. We'd love to have you. It's a lot of fun in the chat. We handicap the last 2 races of the day at Saratoga. So if nothing else, just join us for that. Mike will be calling in live from the track. Hopefully, Aaron will be calling from the road. We hope that he doesn't lose signal this time. But it'll be a lot of fun. So join us then. Mike, anything else before we get out of here, buddy?
No, I'm excited, man. It's nice to have Saratoga to handicap. I mean, we talked about a 15-1 shot, 10-1 shot that neither of us are using in the last leg that both are completely logical. I mean, that's the fun part about this racetrack. Make sure you take stands. Make sure you single where you can. Spread where you think your opinions aren't as big. Have a good time, man. It's Saratoga. You just got to enjoy it.
Like Davey said to start our show, Saratoga has 5-1 morning line favorites. That's why we love Saratoga. There's been plenty of you joining us here. That's why we love each and every one of you. Follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8. You're on the correct side for me this time. At Racing_Dudes is the corporate overlords. Blinkers off was yesterday. I did that with Aaron, previewing the weekend stakes action at Saratoga. So check that out as well. And then they have, Dudes Who Bet will be on later today with Papa Dude. So check that out. Or is that tomorrow? They might be on tomorrow. Check the YouTube page.
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow because Aaron's still driving. That's correct. Yep. So that'll be tomorrow. We will see you back here in just about 4 hours. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck. We'll see you for race 5.